Hello, beautiful ladies. Welcome back to Wamen Hour, and I really hope that you can see and hear me because I feel so lost when there's no guests to just confirm that I'm here. But thanks for coming back to the show. I said on Twitter earlier that it's come to my attention that nobody watches this show. How can that be possible when there's 10 people watching now? But what I mean is that the panelists of the show don't watch the show. My mum doesn't watch the show. My husband doesn't watch the show. None of my friends on YouTube watch the show. So I hadn't left wondering exactly who it is who's watching this. And so I decided to just stop trying. I'm not going to try to be anything now. I'm just going to make the show that I want to make. I'm going to have fun every week. And today, that takes the form of just random topics that come to mind. I'm going to tackle them on my own. I'm going to tackle them efficiently. And we'll see how it goes. I'm flickering. That's it's always a good sign. So I hope you enjoy that. And let's get on with it. Well, the first topic that we need to discuss is... let's start with the title, shall we? What happened to Monobrows? I'll tell you how this came into my consciousness. What have I opened this? I've been watching a lot of Oasis recently because inexplicably my daughter loves to watch Oasis music videos, and it's better than watching cartoons or whatever. So I'll just I put this on quite a lot. If I share my screen, you can see that I started thinking about Monobrows again after realizing that Liam Gallagher has like massive eyebrows that you can't see it. It's not coming up. How annoying. I don't know. It's not. I'm not sharing the window. I'm not sharing the screen. I'm sharing the window. Oh, there it is. Is it working now? There we go. Okay. Liam Gallagher, the lead singer from Oasis, all of these music videos throughout apparently all of the 90s, he had a monobrow, and I don't remember it being like a big deal, like it was, like it would be now. Like there's obviously genetic stock of people, like a certain percentage of people just have hair that grows thick and dark between their eyebrows. Humans have hair all over their skin. Other than like the palms of your hands and under your arms, like most of your skin, no matter what kind of person you are, is covered in very fine hairs. Of course, the hairs on your head and if you're a man, the hairs on your chin grow a lot thicker and darker, and people generally have thick hair on their eyebrows. Most people have hair between their eyebrows. It's just that some people have thick, dark hair growing there, just like their eyebrows, so it looks like the brows are joined up. I put a poll in the chat whether you think it's a monobrow, meaning one brow, or is it a unibrow, meaning like a united brow, rather than having two that are disconnected. They have united, like two friends meeting. So there's obviously like a genetic stock of people who just like a certain percentage of the population just have hair that grows thick and dark between their eyebrows, and yet I don't see it anymore in celebrities, in public. They just stopped. What has happened is that we've just decided that this is not fashionable, that it's perhaps gross or disgusting, and everyone who has thick, dark hair between their eyebrows is just quietly plucking it, shaving it. I don't know what they do, but it's no longer in the public consciousness. The only person I can think of who publicly has a monobrow is the YouTuber called Electro Boom. You guys watch him?
Iranian boy.
He's Iranian?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good on him, because
they're famously hairy.
yeah, I know. Obviously, people who genetically have thicker hair, thicker sort of body hair, thicker facial hair, it predominates among these people. Liam Gallagher is not Iranian, that I know of. But the point is that there's something weird and arbitrary about it. I think if I had to put it down to anything, It's people don't want to be different. They don't want to have a distinguishing feature that most people don't have. Having a mole on your face, or having anything. There's nothing like intrinsically bad about it, especially on men. I think on women it can look a bit masculine, like it's kind of somehow looks like you're having more facial hair. Just sounds like it's less feminine, perhaps. But especially for men, I really don't think there's anything intrinsically unattractive about it. I found this image of I can't think of Monobrows without thinking of Count Olaf from the series of Unfortunate Events books, and then subsequently the TV show. This is Neil Patrick Harris, who's not an ugly man, to say the least, who's playing Count Olaf, and I think it's a good look. I think some men, he doesn't naturally have a monobrow, as far as I know. This is makeup, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it could come back, is the thing. What I was going to say is that I believe the only reason that it could have gone out of fashion is that there's the tweezers. The primary way that people deal with this is to pull out the hairs. That the availability of tweezers just makes it such an easy feature to get rid of for most people that it's just plucking your eyebrow hairs just becomes part of a routine, part of just like having a shower. What's that?
You didn't put DL.
I didn't put what?
You didn't change the picture.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, there it is. No, I did.
Well, it's not here.
It's on here. Are you a woman?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's there.
So that's, like I said on Twitter, I want to rinse these topics quickly. Maximum efficiency. I don't know how long we're going to be up, but I'm hoping it's not going to be an hour because I want to get through these topics. And I was going to say that the function of eyebrows is, of course, to keep sweat and dirt from getting in your eyes. You can imagine in a pre-industrial, prehistoric past, the getting sweaty and getting dirty used to be a lot more common. So having a barrier there to stop things getting in your eyes, obstructing your vision, was very important. There's no real reason, evolutionarily, to have, to serve that function between the brows. I don't know if it does help. Depending on your skull shape, it might benefit some people more than others. The actual fluid dynamics of your face might lead sweat to go through the middle if you didn't have something defending it there. These days, I think eyebrows are almost completely decorational. They're not there for any function other than to make you look surprised when you raise them. So that brings me on to the super chat we got last week for the topic. And I'm just going to have a look at that to make sure I get it right. It was about hygiene. I really didn't want to cover this topic because it's so gross just to even, I find it gross even to talk about hygiene, to be honest. And it's without a specific context of the person asking this question, I don't know exactly how exactly to address it. So I'll read the question again. From Dances with Incels. Can you do a topic on hygiene? My first girlfriend wasn't too keen on the practice. I give advice to my male friends, but I'm not sure how to give advice to women I could possibly date in the future. So I had to think about this, and assuming that this whatever hygiene practice your girlfriend isn't keeping up with is something that is genuinely, I don't know, fixable, something that definitely should be fixed and isn't just a weird personal preference that you have. I think the only way to give someone advice about hygiene without upsetting them a lot, it's so personal, and it's so embarrassing that I really think there's no way to address it head on or to give someone advice. I came up with two ideas. One idea is to address the subject extremely obtusely by commenting on someone else's hygiene in a, whatever the issue is, she doesn't wear deodorant, she doesn't shower enough, or whatever. Just comment about how someone else is doing that, so that it's not a direct criticism of her, but you're at least putting it in her mind that this is like a standard that you believe is like a base level standard that human beings should reach to live in society, and don't have to be too rude about it, obviously, but the point is that you can't directly criticize her, but you can criticize the practice that she's partaking in or not partaking in, as the case may be. My other idea, slightly weirder, if that doesn't work, is just to send like an anonymous, like create a burner email account and send an anonymous email from, so don't give any indication that's from you, just write a single line saying like, you need to shower more, or, whatever it is. The problem with that is that I think if as the boyfriend, you'll probably be the number one suspect. So you may get caught, and it would be extremely embarrassing for her and for you. So I don't know. Otherwise, I really just don't know how you can possibly address this. It's just too difficult. It might be just this part of my personality not being confrontational, but I do think, on the subject of hygiene, there is a certain, kind of what we were talking about with the monobrows, there's a certain arbitrary nature to what we consider to be hygienic in modern society, and I think that there's a lot more variation between people than we really give it credit, that we really acknowledge. I remember I had a friend at school, and this is going to sound really weird, right? But I told him one day, I was like sitting next to him, and I told him how good that he smelled. I thought he smelled great. I really noticed it for some reason. And I think because I said that, it gave him permission to get something off his chest that he'd been that he'd been storing away, that he was too embarrassed to tell anyone else. And he said that he doesn't use soap when he showers. He just washes with water. He washes every day. He keeps himself clean, but he just doesn't use soap. And I thought, okay, that's kind of weird, but as long as he's washing his hands, when I think about hygiene, I think you've got to keep your hands clean. If you're preparing food, if you're eating, that's the absolute basic, is just keeping your hands clean enough that you're not contaminating yourself or other people. If you're cooking, you don't want to be using getting raw meat juices on everything like that. That's what I consider to be the really essential hygiene, is the stuff that can actually make you sick. The level sort of above that is sort of standard for what I'd call social hygiene. It's just making sure you don't smell bad, you don't offend people with your odor or with your I don't even know what, you're being encrusted in dirt. And the two are related because it's the bacteria in your sweat or whatever it is that smells bad. But unfortunately, the sense of smell is very easy to get accustomed to. So the most unfortunate thing about smelling bad is you're the only person who doesn't know it, if you have bad breath or whatever it is. So it does become an extremely embarrassing situation where everyone you meet, everyone in your life knows about this one thing about you that you're completely oblivious to, unless someone sends you an anonymous email about it. But that's basically where I draw the line, is do you smell bad? Are you keeping clean in the sense that you're not getting sick or making other people sick? And aside from that, anything goes. That's maybe that's a radical perspective, but there seem to be so many rules that I find pretty arbitrary, that some people probably have to be more fastidious about it than others. And I guess the fact that you're not aware of your own odor means that it is better to be on the safe side and go further with it. But that's just my opinion. And since I haven't got any guests, that's just the correct opinion that we're going with today. The next one I had on my list is another one. I tried to get guests on about this, but it was difficult at short notice. But I wanted to talk about anime again. We talked a little bit about how the character design in anime might be promoting, should we say, degenerate sexual fantasies or appetites in people who indulge in, who watch a lot of anime. And what I wanted to talk about today is something it's kind of similar to that. Let's get a picture up because I want to talk about how I came to thinking about this. And there's an anime that was really popular when I was a teenager, especially among girls, that it's making a comeback now. I found out this week that one of my favorite animes from when I was 13 is back. Like, people like this again. And it's kind of in some senses it kind of just made me return to what was it that I liked about this anime, and also thinking about something I heard someone on YouTube say. So the anime, by the way, for people who can't see what's on the screen, is All Around High School Host Club. This was, I think, started in the anime was made in about 2007, I want to say. There was a manga ongoing at the time, which I read all of. When I watched the anime, I loved it so much, I picked up the manga. I read the whole thing, and it was very popular with like normie women as well. Like, girls at my school were reading this manga and watching this anime. And I don't know if you can tell from the from the cover, but it's a story of a girl who is friends with lots of boys. They're in this host club together. I'm not going to go into the whole plot of it, but what I want to talk about is the main character she dresses as a boy to be part of this club. And everyone in the club knows that she's a girl, but everyone else at the school doesn't know. And it's this plot line of this sort of gender bending thing. Like, it creates drama, it's comedy, you get this situational comedy. And this is something that was in Shakespeare, right? Boys dressing as girls, and usually it was girls dressing as boys, I think. In Twelfth Night this happens. And it's not like anime invented this, but this YouTuber who I was watching was talking about Ouran High School Host Club, and there was just this one line that really stuck in my head, where the YouTuber said, Haruhi is the name of the character. He said, was Haruhi your tomboy awakening or your non-binary awakening? And I was thinking, like, hold on. So social contagion is real, right? This idea that people copying what they see on TV and in cartoons, it sounds like paranoid. It sounds like, oh, come on, it's not that people just copy what they see on TV, like, that's stupid. But people are actually talking like this, right? They say that they say that the characters that they see, especially when you're a teenager, have a big influence on you. And I was thinking back to when I saw this, and it did really stick with me. Like, this character, she's really charming, and of course it's it's an anime, so all of the boys are like in love with her, and she's just such a kind of appealing character, and the way that they kind of interact is, I don't know, it's really just likable. It's really it looks really fun, and it's just really pure. I don't really know how to describe it, but it really got me thinking about this concept doesn't work outside of anime. Like, this is such a purely anime concept. You couldn't have this in a Western cartoon or in a live action. They made a live action movie of it, but what I'm trying to make a point that I don't think the concept really translates to reality at all. It only works in this hyper, like, what do you call it? Stylized. It's like a hyper stylized universe where anything can happen. Everything is like times 10 in magnitude, and you can have a plot line where this teenage girl makes a convincing boy who all of these guys like fall in love with, the ones who know she's a girl. And the thing is that the character designs have this kind of effect on the human brain, I think, that makes them really, I want to say cool. Like, it makes them the kind of people that you want to be friends with, the kind of people who you want to emulate. And I wanted to talk about the scientific kind of evo psych concept of the supernormal stimulus, which I think kind of applies to cartoons and also to anime. I've got it here on my phone. A supernormal stimulus, or a superstimulus, is an exaggerated version of a stimulus to which there is an existing response tendency, or any stimulus that elicits a response more strongly than the stimulus for which it evolved. Now, that's that's doublespeak for. Think of the birds that go around feeding their chicks. When a bird lands in a nest and it's looking out for the open beak of a little baby chick begging for food. The chick opens its mouth and it squeaks, and this is the stimulus for the mother bird to go and feed the chick. But you can trick a bird into feeding an enormous red rectangle, a red diamond shape. So you imagine if you've ever seen a baby bird, they're evolved to have like these big red diamonds. That's what the mouth looks like when it's open. The beak opens like this, and it looks like a diamond from above where the bird's coming to give it the food. And if you put a big red diamond in a bird nest, it's so big and so red and so diamond shaped that the parent bird, the mummy or the daddy bird, prefers feeding the hyperstimulus, the superstimulus, to the actual chicks. Its actual flesh and blood young, it will neglect to feed the bigger, redder baby chick that isn't, it's just made of paper. And you can trick animals like this, and you can trick humans like this as well. So you can watch a cartoon and you know that it's not real. You know you're not looking at people, but because it's a cartoon, you've got these strong, block colors, you've got outlines. I talked about this when I was suggesting what people should think of when they are designing a profile picture, when they're choosing a profile picture that's going to be seen at a very tiny size. It's much more readable to have block colors and strong outlines that makes that you can see the face, you can see the expression on the face, and it makes you look much more human. Paradoxically, you look more human as a cartoon than you do using a photo, which doesn't look like, it looks like a fuzzy blur when you zoom out to tiny size that you get to see in the sort of a thumbnail image. A photo looks less like a human being than a cartoon does, because a cartoon is a super stimulus of a human. And you can see this in I'm not going to go down the hentai route because I don't like to get too grisly in these streams, but just to talk about what are the role models that people take on. Like, how do you define your own identity? It's often by comparing yourself to others in your life. That's how you decide what kind of person you are and what kind of person you want to be, is by looking at people around you, figuring out who you like the most, and you try to be more like them. This is especially true for young people, and it's actually especially true for children. Will look to older children, like slightly older children of the same sex. So little 5-year-old girls will look to 6 and 7-year-old girls for how to act, and they will literally mimic them. But that's especially true for what they perceive to be a high status, like a cool kid. Like, they'll want to copy the kids who they think are cool. And I think what happens when people get into anime, and especially when teenagers get into it, and especially teenagers who are like socially isolated or not very good at socializing like I was at that age, you start to see these characters in anime as like the coolest people you know. Like, there's no one in real life who's as cool as an anime character, because the scenarios are so over the top, the character designs are so over the top, that they're just triggering this response in the brain to force you to pay attention to them, to like them, and in some sense to be like them. In some cases where you'll find a character is just so endearing, so cool and funny, that you kind of just want to be like them and you want to have their life almost. And I don't think it's necessarily conscious, but for a lot of people it is almost conscious, where, you know, for me when I was a teenager, I was so unsure about what kind of person to be or how to make people like me, that I would like consciously think about my behaviors, try to change the way I was acting so that people would think I was cooler. And of course it didn't work, because it comes off as really fake. But I think it's still, you know, when you get this cumulative effect of digesting lots and lots of anime or lots and lots of any kind of media, it all builds on itself, and the effects are sort of magnified, you know, over years. And that's not to say that anime isn't good. I think my problem with anime is that it is good. That's the real trouble with it. I have to say is that because, like I'm saying, that because the characters are so appealing, because they're so cool, the scenarios are so over the top, that it's a hyperstimulus for the brain, and that means that it is really good entertainment, and it can make really meaningful stories that really hit home. And just to prove my anime credentials, I did make a brief list on Twitter. Of course, now I can't find it. If I go to this, I briefly wrote down so one thing that people say about anime is that all of the new stuff is bad. Like, anime used to be good and now it's just pandering and bad. And I do kind of agree with that, but I also I got to thinking of like what are the best anime shows from the last 10 years, and just off the top of my head, like in the space of a couple of minutes, I managed to think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Although actually I think probably only 7. But these are really, really good shows. And because I know there's people watching the audience who like anime, I was going to read them out so that you know what animes I like. The seal of approval for for anime. I've got JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Kaiji Ultimate Survivor, Chainsaw Man, Ranking of Kings, Mob Psycho, One Punch Man. I wrote down Fruits Basket, but that kind of doesn't count because it was adapted from a manga that was written a long time ago. And finally, Junji Ito Tales of Macabre, which came out this year on Netflix and was that was like pretty good. It's good. Like the ones at the top of this list are really very, very good. Kaiji Ultimate Survivor goes against everything I've just said in this episode. Like the characters in Kaiji Ultimate Survivor are visually awful. Everything in the show is animated extremely ugly art style, and that goes for like the plot lines. It goes for the characters themselves, the sets. Everything about Kaiji Ultimate Survivor is like dirty and ugly, and I think it's just brilliant. If I had to recommend any anime to someone who doesn't like anime, I'd say Kaiji Ultimate Survivor. It's about gambling. If you like game theory, I think you'll really like this anime. This character, he's drowning in gambling debt, and you just get to see him try to get out of debt by gambling more in these ever-increasing stakes of extremely wealthy people who just put on these like Hunger Games for poor, like for people who are in debt, who are desperate. They there's like this rich elite class who get them to take part in these gruesome gambling games. And Kaiji is like, he's not morally better than anyone else, really, but he's just he's pretty good with tactics. Like he comes up with these genius ideas and really wacky strategies that sometimes pay off and they sometimes don't. It's just brilliant. Like the tension of it. I talked about this for long enough, but yeah, Chainsaw Man, Ranking of Kings, Mob Psycho, and One Punch Man. Those are all really, really good. Like 10 out of 10 animes that I would recommend. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is good after season 1. just for reference. But that's enough of me talking about anime. So let's look at the super chats for today. We've got DRT is King for $5. Thank you very much. After a grand mal seizure that lasted 11 minutes and started 30 minutes after the last episode, I've returned. Roman noses can be attractive, in my humble opinion. Well, thanks for your opinion. I'm really sorry to hear about your grand mal seizure. It started 11 minutes after the last episode. I'm guessing that was last Friday. That sounds rough. Sorry to hear that. And that's all we've got now. On the subject of anime, I had one final topic, which is that we've got another one from Alice Little. Was it Little? I think we decided it was Little last time. Thanks very much for £5. Individualism and personality are too often confused in our age. The former is, as you say, connected with what we consume. The latter is innate. So individualism is connected to what we consume, and personality is innate. Yeah, I think that is an interesting perception, because there are inherent differences between people that manifest regardless of situation. If you know, something that I found interesting, that I've personally observed in myself, is that when I went, people go traveling to find themselves. they say this thing like, oh yeah, I'm finding myself. And that kind of doesn't make sense. But when I think about it, I think what they mean is that if you go traveling by yourself, you take yourself away from everything that makes you in your life. You take yourself away from your friends, your family, your job, everything that is like part of your life other than yourself is removed. You take yourself, only you, and put yourself in a new location. And the thing that remains consistent between your life and your China, whatever it is, your travel destination self, that's the true essence of your personality. And of course that can be influenced by the things that have happened to you. It's not just what comes from your genes. People do develop personality traits from living a certain way or being treated a certain way, growing up in a certain culture, of course. But if you put yourself in a different culture, in a different place, in different circumstances, what I found is that I just ended up being the same person. There really was nothing to find. I was just the same person I've always been. People treated me the same way. It was, it's kind of depressing in a way if you have things that you don't like about yourself, you think like, oh, well, maybe there's some life I could have where that wouldn't be a problem. But actually, I'm pretty much socially awkward no matter where I go. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to or what country I'm in. I find it hard to make friends with people. So that was kind of annoying, but I did find it an interesting exercise. And there are parts of you there's parts of people's personality that would be true even if you were born 10,000 years ago in ancient Egypt or ancient Rome. You were a serf on some feudal lord's farm. There'd be parts of your personality that would be completely different. Your tastes might be completely different. But compared to other people, for instance, I might be one of the more socially anxious people in a group. No matter what group I'm in or when I'm born or where, I'd always be the like slightly socially awkward, kind of analytical personality type, because that's part of my genetics, I believe. You could argue whether I'd even be, born at all. Who knows what kind of, a lot of people with, well, I'm not going to get into it now, but I think it is interesting that your identity is not your personality. Those two words do mean slightly different things. Those are two different concepts. DRT is claiming I didn't read a second super chat, so let's go. Let's read the rest of them. I guess I need to refresh that page more often. That's not what I wanted to close. There we go. Thanks very much, Alice Liddell, for that observation and for the super chat. DRT says, the vision of Escaflowne was based and will be based for as long as there is based to be. Raise your daughters on the right weeb stuff. I'll have to look up that one. I don't know that. The vision of Escaflowne. Flowney? I don't know. Escaflower? No, you spelt it right. Yeah, that looks like a classic kind of, like a 90s. Yeah, 1996. It looks like it's from 1996 too. I guess I'm not as up to date on anime. It looks like, I wonder if it's the same studio that made, Vash the Stampede. What's that anime called? I can't think of it now. Trigun. It looks like Trigun. I wonder if it's related somehow. I know I'm not showing it on the screen. I'm losing the. I'm losing it, guys. I've been talking on my own for too long. Okay. Yeah. On the subject, I've got one more thing I wanted to share on the subject of anime. I joked on Twitter earlier that I wanted to make a dating sim. In anime terms, it's called an otome game. About the name of the game will be Dark Triad, and it's a game where you, if you don't know, the Dark Triad is a sort of psychological principle about three Dark Triad traits, which are narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. And Dark Triad traits are often found in like romance literature, and especially something like 50 Shades of Grey, where you get it's like the bad boy kind of what do you call it, archetype, where characters who are evil or just bad will often have one or more of these traits. Obviously, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not too familiar with it, but I just thought I randomly had the idea when seeing someone else's tweet about the Dark Triad. I thought it would be funny to pitch this idea for a dating sim where, but at first I thought maybe they'd just be three different guys. One of them is narcissistic, one of them is psychopathic, and one of them was Machiavellian. But then I realized that two of these three traits are named after actual people, so you could just have one of them be Narcissus, the Roman myth. You could have one of them be Machiavelli, and you could be I picked the Marquis de Sade for psychopathy, even though sadism isn't quite the same as psychopathy. But I thought it'd be funny if it was a dating sim and you were these guys went to your high school or something, or they worked in a hospital where the main character works, and you get to choose which one of them to date. So I'd really like to actually make that. I said it as a joke, but actually I think it'd be fun to design the characters and to design the scenarios. That's it's the kind of project that I could see myself getting sunk into for a long time. If I didn't have a job and I didn't have children, it's the kind of thing I would probably spend way too long making just for my own enjoyment. All right. That's everything I had today. It's been 40 minutes. How did I do? Pretty dense with topics, if you ask me. So if you have any topic suggestions, then do leave them. If you've got any tips on how to how to tell someone you know that they have bad hygiene habits, do leave a comment about that. And I guess the last thing is that YouTube have stopped putting the chapters on stream. So it was only that last week I talked about how the last episode of Wamen Hour had chapters put on it, I think by an automatic AI that was detecting what we were talking about and splitting up the episode accordingly. But that did not happen on last week's episode. It seems to have been just a one-off fluke, like it was a part of an A/B testing to see if they wanted to see if people would watch longer if there were chapters, but they haven't implemented it yet. So look out for that, I guess, but I don't think it's coming back. Do leave your anime recommendations. I have a lot on my plate that I've been meaning to get round to watching, but I find that recommendations, they kind of build up. Like if someone suggests watching Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I kind of put that away and I go I'm not going to watch that, but I'm going to put that I'm going to mentally keep a tally of how many times it's been recommended. And once it hits like 5, it really feels like this show must be really good because 5 people have recommended it, you know. So do leave your recommendations, and maybe one day I'll get around to watching your show. I am still planning to watch more of Inuyasha, which was someone very kindly paid me to watch and to review. I really liked that. Talk about a bad boy character. Inuyasha does have some dark triad personality types. He's like a male tsundere. I love it. And finally, one last super chat from DRT. How about an episode coming back after medical leave? I don't know what that means. Sorry. I'd love to do a topic suggestion, but I don't know. I don't know how to address that. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Let me know what you think of the new format. I have 2 new episodes coming up. I've got 2 new guests. One of them is Call of the Shield Maiden, who you remember from the episode Are Women Welcome on the Right? And she's going to come back to talk about being Amish, because I've got a lot of questions about that. And another woman that I have booked for next week is a English mother who has a lot to say about childcare and education. So we're going to be talking about that. I found her in the oddest of ways in the comment section of an academic agent stream. And she went to the trouble of writing like a 200-word comment, which I thought was a fairly interesting comment to read. So I thought, this is a person who has opinions, who wants to share them, and is female, so she can come on the show. We got another last-minute super chat from the English Loyalist for $9.99. More petticoat money, but I still haven't bought the petticoats, so keep sending them in. Have a good night and see you next stream. Thanks very much, English Loyalist, and to everyone else. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the coronation. I heard a little rumour that Britannia may be making an appearance on Sunday, so look out for that. And good night.